Friends, relatives, lend me your ears. Everybody listening? Good. Now get out. This video is about sex, and as I'd still like to be invited to Thanksgiving, anybody who knows me on a middle name basis, out you go. Are you gone? Good. Now that the people who might look at me awkwardly at the dinner table are gone, I have a few words for the rest of you. Women masturbate. Stop the presses! No, really. I know that this might not be news to some of you, but as someone who didn't know that women even did that until I was 19, I think it bears mentioning. No one even told me that women could masturbate, and considering that I didn't even know how sex worked until I was 15, my lack of a sex life was all set to become as confusing as humanly possible. Compound that with the fact that I learned about said sex from the organ plus waitress exploits of the Vampire Lestat, and you have the basic formula for the train wreck that you see today. Before that, I just assumed, against all logic, that everybody was like Barbie and Ken down there. Babies were made by rubbing said areas together, and then magic would happen that would give the woman a baby. Fantastic dreams of sparkly fairy sex dashed on the rocks, I reacted like any reasonable 15-year-old would. Ew, they pee with that! My mom yelled at me from across the house, and a quiet rebellion against the disgusting nature of sex began at the same time as a deathly fascination with all things on the subject. Only one thing was for sure, I wasn't having any of it. Ever. Fast forward through the years of parental silence and general shame heaped on my head helpfully at every turn by the churches around us whenever it concerned women's sexuality, I found myself a young woman with both a coiled interest in sex and a heavy dose of self-hatred and ignorance thanks to the Christian religion because of it. This veil of silence due to my surroundings compounded with a mind kept purposely blank on the matter should Satan steal away my soul before marriage, and pretty much prepared me for a life of mind-numbing missionary until told otherwise. The fact that my curiosity overpowered my sense of shame just long enough for me to stick one finger inside and be supremely uncomfortable, "This is terrible!" was enough to set me back for several years thinking that sex was terrible. Because for someone who never received a sex education, outside of a blonde vampire sticking his organ into a not entirely willing waitress, I had little else to go on, and the idea of sticking anything bigger in there was understandably horrifying. All of that changed when my family got high-speed internet. Nothing stops the wave of information on the internet, and as a curious 17-year-old, a source of information outside the surrounding preachers was like an addiction I couldn't deny. I was an atheist within a month. But the net wasn't done with me yet, and while George Carlin duck-punched my religious ideology and Richard Dawkins gave me the words to back my newfound freedom up, it would still take 2 years before I could hammer down enough of that residual shame to read an article on women's pleasure. It was like being born again. Women had clitorises and orgasms and masturbated. Penetrative sex wasn't enough for more than 70% of them to reach the peak alone. And you weren't even supposed to try it until some proper foreplay to begin with. And that hasn't changed today. Which brings us to the point of this big old mess I like to call the story of my sex life. I never should have had to figure this out in the first place. My knowledge of female sexuality shouldn't have hinged on a high-speed internet connection. And the stigma and shame that comes with the lion's share of organized Abrahamic religions should have been buried with the cobweb moral dictums they claim to contain, because women masturbate. Most require clitoral stimulation, and all of them should receive the proper information on the subject, because every woman deserves an orgasm. Women masturbate. I have to say masturbate. I'm ruining this banana. All right, take it, banana, take it.
One, two, three. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's probably the best we're gonna get.
I want to see that.